Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Philly Fast Break podcast. I am Sean Kennedy. Joined with me on the line is our NFL handicapper, Dan Erta. We're going to talk about another undefeated week for us in Week 9, and then we're going to dive into all our Week 10 plays. But before I do that, I want to thank our sponsor, JoannaPlatt.com, with all your life and relationship coaching needs. You can also check out the podcast Love Always Joe, which is available on iTunes. On the latest episode, she talks about whether the struggles in your life are really preparing you for something down the road. I think that's something we can all relate to, getting stronger by going through the adversities in your life, overcoming those hurdles. That just makes you better. So thank you to them for sponsoring the podcast. Again, that's Joanna-Platt.com. All right, and now joining me on the line is Dan Erta, our NFL handicapper. Dan, we both went 2-0 in Week 9. I feel like we got a pretty good beat on what's going on this season. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we've done a really good job. More impressive than the fact that we went undefeated, the two of us combined, is the fact that we kind of called out that it was a weird week. And for the second time in 3 weeks, we were basically like, we don't want to make the plays that we want to play because it doesn't feel right. Now, for a lot of people, it was a good thing if they made the plays that they wanted to make because the public absolutely cleaned up. When we make bets on the podcast, we're generally on the underdogs and the sharp sides, and all of the public favorites won. If I were making plays, if I were forced to pick, I probably would not pick many of those teams at all. So not only did we go 2-0 each, but we also kind of dodged a bullet by not forcing a set amount of plays in a given week.
Yeah, that's right. The top 11 public teams all won last week, and we were both on the Titans, who were the underdog in Monday Night Football, and they not only covered, but they won outright pretty easily against Dallas. And then your Carolina, Tampa Bay over hit very easily, and my New York Jets, Miami Dolphins under hit very easily. So, yeah, I think we pretty much handicapped that one perfectly Week 9. So we'll look to do the same in Week 10 here. Interesting slate started off with Carolina-Pittsburgh tonight, which we're recording this Thursday night, so obviously we're not going to discuss that game because by the time you hear this, that will have already concluded. But a good game there, and we got some good games to talk about in the Sunday action. So, Dan, why don't you fire away with your first pick?
So my first pick of the week is going to be probably an unpopular one, probably one that you don't like. I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns getting 6 points at home against the Atlanta Falcons. I think the Falcons have looked so much better recently that it's almost like they're playing a little better than they actually are. I expect them to come back down to earth. As much as Cleveland is much maligned, it's not an easy place to play. It's cold. Outdoors, not a friendly place for a quarterback like Matt Ryan. Kind of very similar physical atmosphere to Philadelphia, where he struggled the last 2 times that he's played. And I just think that Cleveland is due for a big game. I think they could even win this game outright. They have the cancerous coaching staff of Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley gone for over a week now. They can really just look to moving forward and doing the best that they can on the field. And I think that there's talent on this team, and I think that they give the Falcons a run for their money on Sunday. I'm going to take the 6 points.
Yeah, I was looking at that one. I think it's a little too high for Atlanta on the road to be favored by. I saw it at 5.5, but you're seeing it at 6 here. Yeah, they're starting to get a little healthier defensively. The Falcons are, and the offense has been clicking. But we all know that Atlanta, outside of a dome environment, is a different team offensively. So I think them going outdoors in Cleveland, where it's going to be pretty cold this weekend, that certainly plays a factor. And Cleveland's new offensive coordinator that stepped in the interim, they worked the ball a lot more to Duke Johnson last week. And they did some positive things. Obviously, they still didn't win last week, but yeah, I think at home it's a pretty high line. I would lean that way with Cleveland. I didn't go with that as a pick just because Atlanta they have been playing pretty well lately. They're back in the playoff hunt. They have a lot more to play for than Cleveland does, so I could see them taking care of business here. But it definitely, I think Cleveland's the right side here, so I see where we're going with that. So Cleveland plus 6 for Dan is his first play. My first play, I'm going with an under No surprise. I often go with unders on the pod here, but I'm taking under 46 in the Jacksonville Indianapolis game. I think Jacksonville's coming off a bye. I'd look for their defense, which has struggled a little bit in their last few games, but they're still sixth in the NFL in defensive DVOA. But I think they'll be a little more refocused coming back off their bye. Um, Leonard Fournette is back this week. He's been practicing. He seems to be healthy and going to take on his usual workload. So we talk about this a lot with the Jaguars. When Fournette's available, they're very much a ground and pound team. And it was only when he was out that they kind of shifted more to an aerial passing attack, which sometimes worked, sometimes really didn't work because it's Blake Bortles. But I think with Fournette back, they're going to just run the ball a lot, try to chew clock, and go back to that running game and defensive style of play that got them to the AFC Championship game last year. And then the Colts have been playing well, and they get Jack Doyle back. He came back last week, and he's another good pass catcher for Andrew Luck. But Marlon Mack is questionable. Even though they're coming off the bye, he's been limited in practice, so I'm not sure about his availability. If he's not at full strength or even sits out the game entirely, I think that really hurts their rushing attack, which had kind of perked up in recent weeks. And just overall with the Jags D, I think they'll be able to at least limit Luck and that passing offense of the Colts. So I'm kind of seeing a 23-20 type game at most. I like the under here at 46.
First off, Jason Mendoza is not happy with your Blake Bortles slander.
I know he's his number one fan, and I saw early in season 3 they did the Blake Bortles is good now on the Good Place, and yeah, that went around in the memes. So
Yeah. But look, I like the play a lot. I leaned heavily towards Indianapolis in this game, but the Marlon Mack thing, like the way that he's been playing, he's kind of made them look like a different team. I really like the way they're playing. I think Frank Reich is doing a great job. Andrew Luck looks healthy, but you're right. Like having an established running game is huge, and without him, these guys just aren't very good. Jordan Wilkins isn't very good. Naeem Hines is much more of a pass catching back than a power runner. Like Matt kind of changed the whole thing. I like this play. I don't play unders. We've been through this many times before, but yeah, it's a solid logic. I like it.
all right, so that's my first play of the week. What is the second one on your slate, Dan?
Second one on my slate. Well, I always say that no matter what the situation, I will not bet against New England unless under a touchdown. And the good news is right now they are a touchdown favorite, so I will step up and take Tennessee here for the second week in a row. This is a tough spot for New England. New England's 7-2. They look very good, and you know they're going to be there in the end. But they are banged up a little bit. Rob Gronkowski has been not productive when he has played, and he has been injured as well. Looks like he's going to miss another week or two. And this is the kind of quarterback that they kind of have issues with. The athletic guy who can make plays on his feet when necessary. A couple of Boston fans, including Bill Simmons on his podcast, but I'm not going solely on Bill Simmons here. But a lot of them are a little bit worried about this game, saying don't put them in any teasers or anything. This is a bad spot. I think the Titans are kind of peaking right now. I think the last 2 years on this podcast, me and you have been very high on the talent on the Titans roster, and they just had Mike Mularkey as their coach. And before that, it was Ken Whisenhunt in charge of Marcus Mariota. They finally have a really good system in place, though. Mike Vrabel is doing an excellent job as a head coach, and they're letting Matt LaFleur handle the offense. They just look to finally be producing it the way that we've expected them to, and until the books catch up, I think we're getting a little bit of value there. I think 7 points is way too much from the beginning at home, even against a team like the Patriots.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with a lot of what you said. Tennessee looked pretty good last week, and they've been very inconsistent offensively, but they look like they've kind of recommitted to Dion Lewis as their featured back and kind of shunted Derrick Henry off to a lesser backup role rather than more the 50-50 split. So I think that helps them. I think Lewis is the better player overall, and teams aren't keyed in that they're definitely running the ball like they are when Henry's in the game. So I think that helps them as far as versatility. I also like the angle that, if anybody knows what the Patriots like to do and what Belichick likes to do, it's probably Mike Vrabel, former longtime Patriots great. So I like those aspects of it. As far as New England's concerned, they probably are getting Sony Michel back. I think that'll help them. I also think they've really started to click in the passing game with Josh Gordon looking like he's over his hamstring thing and looking like he's picking up the offense since going to New England, a month or so ago. And Edelman has been his solidly consistent self since he came back from his suspension and gotten into the flow of the offense. So I think even without Gronk, I think with those two and Gordon really emerging, especially, they've looked a lot better in recent weeks. And if Michelle's there, that him and James White are just a great combo. So I just think they probably keep clicking offensively. 7 on the road is a lot. I agree with that. So I wouldn't take New England here. I think it's just a stay away for me in that regard. But I agree with a lot of what you said as far as Tennessee's concerned. So I don't hate the play.
Excellent. I like we were talking about the home favorites and how, or the road favorites and how they've been hitting. I feel like this is a week where the underdogs are going to come back to life.
Yeah, especially coming off, as we discussed, the public heavy week last week. Some teams like New England this week, maybe this isn't a play for us, but we were talking off air about Cincinnati getting 5.5 at home against New Orleans. Like New Orleans, New England, they're the teams everybody's talking about as Super Bowl contenders. Like a couple of them, I don't think are going to cover this week, just because it's got to swing the other way at some point.
I wanted to play Cincinnati so bad. We did talk about this off air. If AJ Green were playing, I would actually think Cincinnati outright would be a pretty solid play. But you just can't trust. You can't trust an offense where I love Tyler Boyd. I think he's a great player. But if he's the best option on a in an offense against Drew Brees and the Saints, you just can't pull the trigger.
Yeah, it's tough because Boyd kind of primarily plays in the slot, so everyone's saying, oh, well, he's the number one option now, but it's not that easy because he doesn't do the same stuff that Green does on the field. So now you're looking at like John Ross and some of their other bench guys having to fill Green's role on the outside. It's just not a one-to-one comparison. So,
John Ross breakout game?
I mean, maybe he's fast enough. Who knows? if
Uh,
if
they
he
got
if he's ever gonna have a shot, this would be it. You would think these next couple weeks with Green out.
not a bad daily fantasy play there for a wild card.
Yeah, it could be a DFS flyer for people out there that play the daily. So, but anyway, Tennessee +7 is Dan's second play of the week. Up next for me, I have a 3-team teaser. I'm taking the Chargers down to a pick 'em. They're at -10. I'm taking the Rams down to a pick 'em as well. They're also at -10. And I'm taking Philadelphia from -7 all the way to +3. Chargers on the road in Oakland. I think Chargers having only lost to the Chiefs and the Rams this season, two of the best teams in the NFL. Oakland, were embarrassed by the 49ers last week. They've fully given up on the season. Chargers, even being on the road, I think they win this one pretty easily. The Rams coming off their first loss of the week. They're back home now. Seattle, we've talked a lot about how inconsistent they are. They look like they're going to be missing Chris Carson this week. So for a team that I think is the number one most rushing oriented offense in the NFL in Seattle, I think that Mike Davis is fine, but losing Carson definitely hurts them. So I look for them to struggle a little bit, and Rams just they're going to want to get back on the winning side of the ledger. So I think them winning at home is a pretty safe play. And then the Eagles, I think we can talk about this one a little more extensively, but Dallas. I'm going to continue to ride the Dallas is not good train. It paid off for both of us last week. Dallas is now on the road on a short week. The Eagles fans are going to be fired up at Lincoln Financial for a Sunday night game. And I don't know. I'm taking them getting 3 just because these kind of divisional games, I always in the back of my mind think they're more likely to be close than not. But so I think 7 might be a little much, but getting 3 at home, I'll take that as part of my teaser. So that's my teaser. Chargers pick 'em, Rams pick 'em, Eagles +3. What do you think about that one, Dan?
I like it a lot. The Raiders are dead. Stick a fork in them. Chargers should win that game easily, even if it is in Oakland. The Rams, while I do think the Seahawks, they're their division rival, that game could be. I could see them covering the 10 points. I can't see the Rams losing 2 games in a row. I think they get the home win here. Only thing I want to say, if you're going to make this teaser, this goes for. I don't know if you actually put it in yet or not, or if people who are listening. I would just wait to see if at any point this week or on Sunday the Cowboys go down to 6.5, and then you could make it plus 3.5. Because in a 10-point teaser, unlike the regular 2-team teasers, when it's a 3-team 10-point teaser, the rule with the books is a tie. If you tie one of the sides, it's a loss. Whereas a regular 2-pointer, if you tie one of the sides, it becomes a push if you win the other side. I would just wait and see, because if it goes up to 7.5, no big deal. You could take it at plus 2.5, and you're essentially getting the same thing. Whereas if you can wait at any point this week, if that line drops a half a point and you can get up to plus 3.5, God forbid the Eagles lose by a field goal, you'd still win your teaser.
Yeah, good point. For anybody out there that is going to wager on that, I think that would be wise to maybe wait and see that line drops a half point. Even if the Chargers or the Rams went up to maybe, I don't know, minus 10.5, minus 11, you still think they're going to cover by more than win their games by more than a point. So that wouldn't be as much of a concern. And yeah, as you said, that could be a big deal with getting the Eagles at 3 or 3.5. That being a key number. But for the purposes of the podcast, we've got to take the lines as they are. So
Sure.
I'm locking it in as pick 'em, and plus 3 for the Eagles.
Look, I'm a little bit worried that Dallas is just going to be super desperate, but man, we've talked about not getting too hype on the Eagles, never being too overconfident. It really does feel like a good spot for them. It feels I kind of wouldn't mind laying 6.5 with them as it is. I think they're going to win the game pretty convincingly.
Hey, I mean, you can't say I'm being a homer when I've two of my best bets this year have been betting against the Eagles.
And I think they were both wins.
Yeah, they were. There was Carolina and it was Minnesota. So, I don't know. I think I agree. This is a good spot for him. And I have one more play for this game, but before I get into that, what's your next play, Dan?
All right. So I do love to play underdogs, but I do like one favorite a pretty decent amount. It's at home favorite. We're going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers minus 3 at home against Washington. More of a fade of Washington than anything else. The Redskins, or the R words, as I guess we should say, are down 2 starting guards. Paul Richardson is going to be out. So we're talking about without a good offensive line, with a banged up offensive line. We have Alex Smith, we have 95-year-old Adrian Peterson, and I don't think Jordan Reed's playing, so we're going to have 95-year-old Vernon Davis as the options. And right now, the Washington's best receiver is a guy named Maurice Harris. And you're probably going to have to Google who that is, and that says something right there. I know Washington's 5-3. I know that they're currently leading the division. They actually played pretty well. They won a couple of games that I took them on, but this is just a bad spot. The only healthy players are old. They're on the road against Tampa Bay, and I think a 3-5 team is a 3-point favorite against Washington for a reason. I'm going to go with the home team here.
Yeah, I took a long look at this one as well because, yeah, it's a very fishy line. You would think, Washington's leading the NFC East, Tampa Bay's, in the basement in the South. It's weird that Redskins would be underdogs here. But yeah, as you mentioned, they are missing a couple of linemen. They're now out for the season. They have Chris Thompson's out, Paul Richardson's out. They're missing a lot of weapons, and you got to think the book has some knowledge in the situation, and there's a reason Tampa Bay's 3-point favorites. The only reason I side with Tampa Bay is just because their defense have been an absolute train wreck this year. It's tough for me to take them as a favorite in any situation just because of how bad that defense has been. And Washington's defense has actually been pretty good. So I don't know, maybe they're the team that can stop the Monken Fitzpatrick, brain trust there on Tampa Bay's offensive side of the ball. It was just weird taking a team that's as limited on one side of the ball as Tampa Bay is and taking them as a favorite. I couldn't wrap my head around that one, but I agree that it was a very suspicious line and that the line is telling you to take Tampa. So
And the Falcons don't exactly have a great defense, especially with how injured they are. And this roster of Washington players only put up 14 against them. I just think it's like I said, I'm not a huge Tampa fan. I do like them a lot better with Ryan Fitzpatrick than I do with Jameis Winston, but this is more just I think that the Skins are in a bad way right now.
Yeah, it's weird that, they're winning the division currently, but all signs seem to be trending down for them. It's a weird situation to be in if you're a Washington fan. All right.
So I think it's like Fangraphs or whatever, the group that predicts that gives out the postseason percentages for teams. So the Eagles right now are 60% to make the postseason. If they beat Dallas on Sunday, they go up to 75%, and if they lose on Sunday, they go down to 35%. So that just kind of shows you how volatile it is right now. So, and even though Washington is currently number one in the East, no one's really putting any buying stock on them right now.
So very, very pivotal Sunday night game for the Birds. Is that your takeaway?
It's probably the most important game since the Super Bowl.
All right. So I like that from a siding with Eagles perspective. Got to come out fired up and take care of business. So that will lead me into my third and final play of the week. I'm taking the over in the Philadelphia-Dallas game. Bucking my trend of unders a little bit, going with an over here. I think Eagles coming off a bye. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for this Dallas defense that is, they're pretty good. The Cowboys defense has been solid this year, but I think Peterson has had the bye week to, evaluate what's gone right for his team and kind of scheme around some of the difficulties he's had as far as the offensive line is concerned. And they picked up Golden Tate in the trade at the trade deadline, so I think that'll really help them as another guy that can do a lot of damage as far as yards after the catch is concerned. A good third down kind of security blanket for Carson Wentz. Remains to be seen how much he'll be playing as far as knowing the entire playbook this early in his Eagles career, but
reports are he's going to play a pretty decent amount. Like, he's not really a guy who runs crazy fancy routes. He catches the ball close to the line of scrimmage and makes things happen.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think he'll definitely be out there a good amount. I'm not going to say like 10 to 12, but I'm just curious whether he's going to be like 90% of the snaps or maybe just like 50 to 60% of the snaps. So we'll see about that. But either way, I think he definitely adds a new dimension for them. So I'm excited to see him out there. And then Dallas, people laughed about them getting Amari Cooper, and I think they really overpaid using a first round pick for him. But we saw last week he had 5 catches and a touchdown. He ran some good routes, and I think he helps. Like, as far as is the team better this week than it was a week and a half ago when they traded for him? Maybe not in the long term, because I think a first round pick would be more useful. But as far as in the here and now, I think they're a better team. And Eagles have been really exploited on the outside all year. Their cornerbacks have been, fluctuating between inconsistent and outright terrible all season long. I think the Derek Barnett injury is really going to hurt them. He was playing some good ball in his second season, and their pass rush hasn't been as deep as it was last year when that kind of carried the team basically to that Super Bowl victory. I think without him in there, that's a big loss for them. And all with the lines at 43, all we really need is the Eagles to get in the 20s and like 17 to 20 points from Dallas. I think it's very doable. I'm taking the over.
Sounds good. It's a low line, only 43. It's kind of crazy low to think about it. Yeah, man. I really think the Eagles are going to be fired up here. I think they scored 30 in a game yet?
I'm not sure about that one. I can look that up.
I think that they could. I think this could be the first time they do. Yeah, man. No problem with that whatsoever. They scored 34 against the Giants that Thursday night game, but they don't count. They're not a real game.
So against real NFL teams, the most they've scored has looks like 24 last game against the Jaguars.
The Cowboys just barely do fit the qualification of a real NFL team, so this will count for them.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
I,
We had a very non-contentious podcast. You didn't really strongly disagree with any of my plays, and I feel pretty good about yours as well. Let's go 6-0.
well, I don't have to talk you into overs, and you said you actually kind of liked my under, so that's usually where we differ is in our two disparate philosophies as far as totals are concerned.
Yeah.
But all right. So do you have any more plays for us this week?
I don't. Those are my three, and you said, oh, you're three, right?
Yeah, I did. That was it.
Awesome. We're set.
All right. So to recap, Dan is on Cleveland +6, Tennessee +7, and Tampa Bay -3. I'm taking the under in the Indy Jacksonville game. That's under 46. I'm doing a three-team teaser: Chargers, Rams, Eagles. That's at Pick'em, and +3. And I like the over in the Eagles Cowboys game. That's over 43. All right, Dan. So what are our tailgating plans for Sunday? I think that's
So
what's on everyone's mind.
we actually had a fun conversation, Sean and I, this week. I had tickets to the game on Sunday, and they weren't selling for what I was asking for. So I said to Sean, I was like, "Yo, if I can't sell these, I'm not gonna like sell these for not a good profit. It's gonna be an awesome game. So if I can't sell them, do you want to go? We have a couple of friends coming into town. It would have been a fun time." And then Wednesday, someone came through and paid me top dollar for them, so I was pretty happy. But we are gonna go. Are you down to come tailgate a little bit?
I'll come down in the afternoon before the temperature drops into the low 40s.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna walk there. I want to make sure I'm home and settled by kickoff. But yeah, depending on what time our friends get down there, I'd definitely be down to go down, say hi, and hang out a little bit. Although I can't have any beer because I am swearing off of all kinds of alcohol for the month of November. So a tailgate without beer is a like a unicorn, like a fairy tale.
It's like an Eagles season without a Super Bowl. It just doesn't feel the same.
It does
Uh,
not.
yeah, I'm definitely down for that. And yeah, luckily for you, I think everyone probably out there knew that this was the most crucial game for the Eagles since the Super Bowl. Somebody out there knew that they would, if they won, they would have a 70% chance to make the playoffs. So they had to go and buy those tickets.
You know what the biggest problem is? I've been selling them on StubHub. When you sell a ticket on StubHub, the processing fee that StubHub takes is $40 per ticket. So the total, like I was offering them for about $350 for the pair. But if anyone wanted to buy them, for me to get $350, they'd have to pay $430, which is insane. So that's what the holdup was. I was on Facebook, I was on Craigslist. I finally found someone in the Eagles fan group on Facebook who was willing to make the transaction without any of those stupid fees.
Yeah, looking to SeatGeek.
SeatGeek has fees too. The only difference is SeatGeek puts the fees in the listed price. They don't add them on the next screen, but the price is the same.
Yeah. At least they're transparent about it. StubHub,
Exactly.
StubHub was always they get you at the end. It feels just a little like sleazy. It's
It is, and they hope that not like 90% of the people are like, I'm already on the checkout screen. Whatever, I'll pay the extra amount.
right, yeah, very very underhanded StubHub. That's why I went to SeatGeek and I haven't looked back. Um, but all right, so we're coming off of an undefeated week. We got 3 plays apiece for week 10. And on the season, we're both well over 500. You're at 21-15-3, and I'm at 13-8-1. So we'll try to keep that going, and we'll try to throw some good vibes out there for the Eagles in this pivotal NFC East matchup Sunday night.
You
Um,
think SeatGeek's going to sponsor us after that shout out you just gave them? They
I
sponsor every other podcast in
I
the
know
world.
every other sports gambling podcast in the world. So yeah, SeatGeek promo code PFB. You get $20 now. Yeah, hit me up, SeatGeek. I'm happy to have another sponsor. We do appreciate JoannaPlatt.com, but we have room for at least one more. So, all right, everybody, good luck and enjoy on the NFL action this weekend, and we will talk to you next week.
See you next week.